so I can see everybody except you.
We're not going to do that. At Elsbeth, don't try to do that. I'm going to make it so that all of us don't have that. So basically, oh geez, all right. The main thing is, frankly, that if Luis Rosa speaks and the rest of us don't, he'll hear us. We'll hear.
Yes.
We won't see each other. We'll just see him. All right. Now give us one more second because Baba's gonna. Did you do it already?
It's recording.
It's recording.
They announced that it's recording.
I didn't hear that. All right. So Luis Rosa and anyone else who speaks, we are recording. Of course, we're really excited to have Luis with you. Luis, we had some snafus technologically and otherwise, so we're thinking that if possible, we'll try to raise the temperature by putting the heat on to 125 degrees Fahrenheit in solidarity with you.
It's already that over here. You know,
yes. We want to join with you in all the ways we can. All right, Pump, it's all yours, man. Take it away.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure, and again, I am forever indebted and grateful for the solidarity that you have all given our movement and people around the world. Actually, I'm a result. I'm a testament to that, the power of that solidarity, and so are my comrades who were released 20-something years ago now. So again, I am forever grateful, and I can't say thanks enough. So I like to start off every encounter with that I am still appreciative and grateful. Every day I live out here is one day I don't have to live in there, and that's because of you. So thank you. Situation here is getting to the boiling point here, and both figuratively and literally. The temperature here has been for the last month averaging the heat index over 100 degrees, and with a power grid that turns on and off, or they do what's called a rotating blackouts, where they take energy from one neighborhood and they just black you out and give it to another neighborhood because they don't have the sufficient power to supply to the whole country. So they select neighborhoods. So you can imagine being in this heat with no fan and no air condition and just and no refrigeration of anything. So and these sometimes average within 4 to 8 hours blackouts. Sometimes they come unannounced. So this is something we have to face on top of the embarrassing and inhumane treatment that the power grid under Lumas has given to Puerto Rico. We are now within 2 years that they promised to come in here and modernize the electrical grid in Puerto Rico. They took $1.2 billion that was there to better the grid without putting in 1 cent of their own money. They received this contract from a corrupt governor to replace our power grid. They ended up firing hundreds of experienced, and I mean very experienced, because Puerto Ricans were one of the first to invent the walking on the power lines via helicopters. The helicopter would bring them into these power lines in the mountains, and they would walk on them and replace them up there, thousands of feet above ground. So they eliminated those positions. There was a fight about the pensions. The pensions are still unsecured. So we have that battle, and now that same power company has been divided into another one that is part of their own company, so they can further profit. There's been over 18 price hikes on electricity within the last 2 years. 18, close to 38% hike from what we had before. when it was promised that the electricity would go down because of this company coming in. Apart from that, there's on the table so that part of the money going into the payment of a kilowatts that you spend in your home or business. Part of that money is going towards paying the debt, a debt that is over $90 billion and growing. That is a debt that was accumulated by corrupt governors trying to build mega projects that never got off the ground, like the pipeline for natural gas. You could see the pipes still laying on the ground in Guanadillas, the town, western coast town, and other mega projects that never got off the ground. So what's happening is we're paying this debt that's never been audited, never been detailed on what is our debt really and what is the debt accumulated from one bank buying the debt, selling it to vulture funds, vulture investors, and now they sold it at pennies, and now they're claiming dollars. So that debt multiplied by over 100%. What was really a $40 million debt became quickly a $90 billion debt, and we can't pay for that. So there's been a lot of movement, a lot of resistance on that. That's one of the main issues that came along with what's called the junta, the control junta, the economic control junta that was established by President Obama, actually, and that was to get Puerto Rico's economy back on track and do away with some corruption. The fact is that this junta, composed of I think 9 members, are probably the most corrupt of them all. They have salaries that has garnered over $1 million a year. Everything's paid for, meals, everything for them. They have I think one meeting every 2 weeks or something like that, and usually they're plush meetings. So you have all these bureaucrats and rich people that come together to meet and decide on how to better our economy, and our economy has been plummeted. We are not producing anything. Companies are leaving. Just recently, I think it was Baxter Myers out of East Coast in Juncos, just said they're closing doors because the electricity went up on them 40%. The electricity is also going up on everybody. In addition to the 18 price hikes, there's also a proposal for additional $40 to be added to every household, every bill. That will devastate not only small businesses and many of the large businesses, because and that's $40 for houses, and thousands of dollars, up to $20,000 bills for businesses, bigger businesses. So that's the economy, and the economy is being devastated from all angles. But that's in accordance to a plan that I think that's happened since 1978. I don't know if you recall the 2020 plan, the 2020 project.
Yes.
The 2020 project was a plan that was discovered when one of the guerrilla groups, one of the urban guerrilla groups in Puerto Rico, broke into an army barracks, a naval barracks, and stole these plans that illustrated what Puerto Rico will become by the year 2020. And that called for the depopulation of Puerto Rico, where many were being forced to migrate to the United States. That called for the creation of the super tubo, which is a pipeline to bring water, pure water or clean water to 11 industrial zones, industrial park zones. That's where the pharmaceuticals. That called for the strip mining of the center of the island, where 40% of the copper the U.S. military needed is found there, that can be found there, can be extracted. Offshore magnesium, and even gold in the Yunque. So you have all this coming to fruition. The building of the Highway 10 that goes into Ajuntas was specifically designed to be able to hold the large machinery going up to strip mine in that area, in Utuado and Ajuntas. The super pipeline has been constructed now since early 1980s. The 11 industrial parks exist. They're mainly pharmaceuticals and other things that can easily be trained into military, can be turned into military, producing anything from chemical war weapons to anything else military. And you have the beginnings of people talking again about strip mining. You have the dams that were built for the purpose of holding the chemicals for strip mining. So you have all this plan that many thought, because of the work that was being done and the work that was done to stop it, that it was totally off the shelf. What's happening is that the United States still needs some of these materials, and having a lot of external places like Africa and Latin America close their doors on them for the extraction of some of these minerals, and China and Russia moving in to occupy that space. You have now the United States relooking at how we can further exploit Puerto Rico. So you have a mass migration of Puerto Ricans. Over 1 million Puerto Ricans have migrated within the last 10 years to the United States. Many of those are young graduates from the universities, and they're going to the United States with the promise of better jobs and everything else, and better salaries. So we're having the same migration at a being multiplied, actually, at a greater extent than the migration that in the 1940s when Operation Bootstrap occurred in Puerto Rico. You have now over 5 million Puerto Ricans. 5 million Puerto Ricans. I wish we had 5 billion. We would have changed it easier. But we have 5 million Puerto Ricans now residing within the United States borders, and only 3.2 or maybe less than that. Another thing that's been another face of colonialism has been how the nation has not grown. We have a -1% growth rate, meaning babies being born in Puerto Rico. You topple that with an aging populace, with the youth being forced out to look for jobs, and basically you're looking at the extinction of a nation. And I don't say that frivolously or or jokingly. I say that we are being extinct. We're looking at Hawaii in 2023. We're looking at at a nation being basically exterminated by different things. The rate of cancer here is outrageous. The rate of asthma, the rate of homelessness, the rate of mental illness is astronomical here. I think we, in all the nations, in all the states, we lead in most of the 50 states. Ours is greater. So you have all these contaminants. You have you have cancer. You have now you also have, we have to look out for the radiation that's being done by the communication towers. We are saturated with communication towers. We have over 3,000 communication towers around the island that they combine to create the grid of telephone companies and everything else, internet and telephone companies. That's bombarding radiation into our communities. There's a law that says that they can't be within 500 yards from a residential, and you find them right next in the same yard, right next door to our houses. And we got people resisting that and fighting that as well throughout the island. So there's many fronts. Another one is the environmental front, the stealing of our beaches. They're putting gates. They're enclosing some of the best beaches in Puerto Rico for the rich who have moved in, because Puerto Rico has also become the world's biggest Airbnb satellite in the
Yes.
world. So when they move us out, they're coming in. Bicho Campos once said they're not interested in the birds inside the cage. They're interested in the cage.
Mm.
So
Uh,
whatever happens to us is, it doesn't matter. What matters for them is Puerto Rico's, its resources, and making it again another fun vacation resort. When Donald Trump a few years ago stated that he will buy Puerto Rico and turn it into a golf course, that's exactly what they want. They want an entertainment center. They want a golf course. They want the best beaches where they can surf and put their yachts in. And they don't care what happens to us. Right now, to give you a couple examples, in the town very close to here, Quebradillas, uh, a guy, I forgot his name, he came from Boston area. He was actually uh, he was actually one of these tax evaders from Boston that owes over $1 million in taxes. He went to Puerto Rico, saw this beautiful building that he stood in, actually, that he rented an apartment in, and said, "Wow, I'm going to buy this." Goes and gets a loan, buys the building, and gives everyone a piece of paper. You have 60 days to move out. People who have been living there 20, 30 years, and you got 60 days to move out. And then he puts an advertisement in the internet for the rich people. I got condominiums for sale, beautiful area overlooking the beach, very close to walking distance to a beach. It starts off at $500,000 or something for the same condominiums that these people been living in there and paying a $1,000 rent. So that's happening everywhere throughout Puerto Rico. And I dare to say that will happen everywhere throughout the world where they can get away with it. We were in gentrification is not just a phenomena here. I think it's a phenomena everywhere where you're seeing people who they're uprooting whole communities, because we don't mind people coming and visiting and moving in. We're not against even Americans moving in, but displacement is one thing, and coming to vacation or coming to live there is another thing. And a lot of people say, so what does that have to do with even the political realm? Well, laws are being created by the same people who are displacing, or the same companies who are selling these homes, the realtors. They're creating new laws. They're buying off senators and congressmen in Puerto Rico and creating these new laws like the 2023 plan law, the law 60, that allows for people to come and invest in Puerto Rico tax exempt. So when these U.S. corporations see that, they say, "Wow, we don't have to pay taxes in Puerto Rico, so let's move our company to Puerto Rico. Let's buy out all these lots and these lands, and we don't have to pay nothing for it, and we can still operate in the United States, but keep our money in Puerto Rico." And that's what's happening. And I tell my comrades at the independence movement, because there used to be a slogan that, a saying that statehood is impossible because we will enter as the poorest state in the nation. They don't want that. We will enter as a Spanish speaking state. They don't want that. We will enter as Democrats, and the Republicans don't want that. Look, all that is being taken away because the tax base, if all of a sudden that tax law, you get enough rich people in Puerto Rico that you say, okay, now it's time for you to pay a little something, the tax base goes up. That means the revenue towards the federal government goes up, it looks more attractive. At the same time, you're seeing all these charter schools, they're basically eliminating public schools here. At one shot, in 1 year, they closed over 400 public schools, with saying that there wasn't enough students to occupy these spaces. So you're seeing public schools being closed down. You're seeing a lot of corruptions within the largest money receiving department is the Department of Education. And you're seeing corruption left and right there. The last two, this one just resigned yesterday, but the last two before him were sent to prison on corruption. So you're having a charter system that's focusing on teaching English. So now you're doing an attack on the culture as well. You're replacing one culture, you're with another, and you're making it more appealing to people near the Senate in the Congress in the United States, to go towards a statehood solution. And you're also seeing the fact that more Americans are moving in and Puerto Ricans are being moved out. So it's like the Hawaii situation again, right? And you're getting back to the same repression on leftist movements. There's one thing that's happening throughout Latin America that's also being done here, and that's the I always tell people that COINTELPRO never died. It just changed its name to Homeland Security. It just changed dresses, right? Changed appearances, but it's basically still there. There's still basically agencies there securing that we don't get to a level of resistance that is any threat to them. And that even includes a level of solidarity. So what you're seeing in Puerto Rico is you've seen a lot of leaders they're trying to discredit all our leadership. They are building cases on them. You saw that, done in Brazil, in Bolivia. You've seen, all throughout Latin America. And so you're having that done here. Whereas last year, we people were rejoicing that the governor only won by 32%, and those on the left if they were unite, would have over 37%, or maybe 40. And now you're looking at laws being created so that these groups can't unite unless they dissolve and become one. And that's almost impossible in Puerto Rican politics for one group to dissolve and join another. That's a uphill situation. I mean, it could be done, but it's uphill, and because most of these organizations were created because they had differences with the others, right? And so they got laws that prohibit this type of a union, this type of coalition government, and so again, everything's being done so that you can either keep it status quo, or worse, bring it closer to a statehood situation where everything's under control. Let me stop here and take questions. I would love some questions.
1 second quickly. Maybe do a little loop about OPF and the passports.
Great.
Answers.
Absolutely. For the last, I think it's 2 years, right? Or maybe 3. Last 2 years, I participated in a grouping called Occupied and Colonized Peoples Forum, and which Matt and people from around the world have joined. We have representations of 8 countries at the moment that participate in these meetings. Most of the meetings were done through Zoom, but we've had some in-person meetings, one in Juba, South Sudan, and another one with a few of us in Trinidad. And the purpose of this organization basically is to not only expose the atrocities of the occupied and colonized peoples around the world, but also to present ourselves as a unit of solidarity, where we would take these issues and bring them to the attention of the world, and help create some policies that would that would end this occupation, this colonization. So we we are tackling now at the moment something that was proposed and I think accepted, unaccepted in the last meeting, was the question of seeking a internationally recognized passport for occupied and colonized people. Uh, the fact that the UN has declared that colonized people or people in struggle have a right to travel to get support for their movements. Uh, in the case of colonized people, that has not always been the case. We have been denied access to the world and access to potential solidarity groups. In the case of Puerto Rico, for instance, some of our people weren't able to travel and save their lives or save, like in the case of Don Rafael, who refused an American passport. He couldn't travel to Cuba to receive the attention, the medical attention he needed. He was not, and that he was not receiving in Puerto Rico or elsewhere. So what we're proposing is that the UN recognize this colonial situation, and already we've had, in the case of Puerto Rico, we've had three presidents admit that that Puerto Rico never had the opportunity to decide their political status. So that's a soft way of them saying that we've been a colonized nation without using the word colonialism. But the UN has, and the Decolonization Committee has recognized Puerto Rico's colonial status for decades. So what we're saying is, look, we want a temporary uh, passport that we can use to travel internationally, and that we don't have to show the passport of the colonizer, because that further traumatizes us, right? To use the colonizer's passport, and to be seen as something that we aren't. We're Puerto Ricans, and we want to be recognized as Puerto Ricans, and not, and the Palestinians want to be Palestinians and not recognized as part of the Zionist state. The Moroccans want to, the West Saharans want to see themselves as West Saharans and not Moroccans, right? And the same thing elsewhere. That there's colonized people elsewhere that have the same problem. So what we're trying to do is gain support, gain a little rhythm on this, and see if we can get this passport. So we're in the investigative process right now. I have lawyers in Puerto Rico who are developing the arguments legally for the UN, and we requested that all the other colonized nations as well contemplate on how they want to argue their point of view, because some things change a little bit, and so then we will come together and see how we will present it as one document within the UN. This is, for me, this is a win-win situation, because even if it's denied, we have now a world audience on the colonial situations of these countries that we can exploit, and that we can build solidarity movements within those countries for this. I think it's a win-win. But we're hoping that we can get the passport. But if we don't, we got means to organize and solidarity movements around, and possibly if we don't get it the next year, we keep struggling to try to get it. I know there's been passports that's been UN workers are allowed passports from the UN, and Matt illustrated to me several cases where African leaders in the early '60s were allowed to travel on UN passports, and so we're doing our research on this and seeing where we can apply this. This is one of the issues that we want to illustrate and work on. The other thing is obviously I would like to discuss the possibility of organizing embassies of colonized people throughout these other as many countries as possible to engage in solidarity work with the people there, and like what we have in Cuba. We have the mission, the Puerto Rican mission in Cuba. I don't know if any of you have ever visited. But it's at Embassy Road, so it's basically our embassy. So we conduct activities there, we conduct meetings, and I think that this is it's time that we start operating like a provisional government, like creating our own space in different countries. To we have good relationships with Venezuela. We have good relationships throughout Latin America with the different governments. I think we should open up a space in these places where we can continue our work building solidarity. And maybe even within the United States borders, we can have it could be a house, where we say, okay, this is this, we this is recognized now as the mission. Any Puerto Rican who goes on a speaking tour or anything can stop at the mission, and or have a coordination done, with the people of this mission to see how we can get a greater audience, or get funding for something, or whatever we have to do, right? But I think we need to start thinking on a bigger scale. Matt has been helping me because I sometimes jump around and wander around, and I have all these ideas, but sometimes I'm not focused enough. So I've been seeking help from Matt and Stalin and a few others on how to word some of these things, because I think we need to start thinking outside the box, right? We need to be a little more creative with how we appreciate the solidarity, how we empower solidarity, because sometimes we don't do that. We just expect to receive, help, and not necessarily empower those who are helping us. And I think so. We need to rethink some of these things out, and we be better, greater appreciative, because it's not just receiving from you; it's what we can give you to empower you, or to help you in your work, because you're not only just doing solidarity work for Puerto Ricans, you're also doing it for other groups in need. And so I believe in that type of internationalism that we need to go back to, and appreciate the work that you guys do over there, and people throughout the nation and throughout the world that are doing in solidarity, and see how we can help each other. I see.
Okay, so you all right, let's say, John, you have, Salvo, Meg, Bob.
Can you hear me from here?
Yes.
So two things. One, do you envision the mission as involving multiple struggles? Like, for example, a mission in Rome, Italy, could have Kurdish, Sahrawi, and other, and maybe join forces. Is that feasible? Is that imaginable? And the other thing is, there are obviously you've drawn out. I mean, first of all, I would like to thank you, and I forget, like, to thank you for all the incredible information, for educating someone like me who's not familiar as fully as one should be with the context. So thank you very much. That's the first thing I should have said, and I'm sorry, but it is so exciting what you're saying. I'm getting beyond myself, but beside myself. But you might know of the movement No Muos in Sicily, where mothers have been congregating against the expansion of these radioactive, highly magnetic, or I forget the terms, towers that radiate a lot of magnetic energy, electromagnetic energy, which is tied to carcinogenic, or is tied to possibility of carcinogenic effects, and
yes,
whether it may be feasible to make at the international scale your struggle more visible by connecting with these groups who are already fighting the same U.S. Military forces and also corporate forces that are behind these environmental harms.
Absolutely. I think on the first question though, about the embassy type of thing. I mean, we have particular things within our movement, right? That sometimes can't uh can't be mixed with other. We can't. Sometimes if you share the space, you share the responsibilities, right? And that means for everything. That if sometimes there's something that happens that someone doesn't agree, then so I mean, I can see a building or where each floor is a different embassy, a different mission, and then where we can coincide and converge, because we have a lot in common with the Kurds, we have a lot in common with the Palestinians. I mean, to me, they're all one family, right? We're all one family. So I can see a lot of convergence, but I also would say that each movement should be autonomous in their tactics and strategies, right? So for that sense, I think that there should be like a separation, but not a separation where we're antagonists or something like that. I think we will work. We will definitely work together on everything, but that there has to be some type of thing. Now, as far as like work with the people here against the communication towers, like the 5G and all that, with absolutely, I think that needs to be done, because it's the same effect, the same damage being done to all our people, and we have to see this as a it's neoliberalism isn't an attack from neoliberalism on our communities, and we need to deal with that. It's the same thing with the confiscation of lands in our beach areas and stuff like that, with gentrification in general, how poor people are being moved out of areas because now all of a sudden, the beach used to be something that they didn't want to belong, be cleared in front of the beach, because because of the rust that the salt from the water causes, because of the damage that the waves might cause because of storms, and everybody they wanted to be close enough to the beach to walk, to take a drive, but not on the beach. Now they want the beach, and they don't want us on the beach. So these struggles are happening in Spain and throughout the world, and we need to communicate with that. Just like what happened in Vieques. Vieques is a great example of the potential of international solidarity, right?
Yes.
Because people recognize the damage of Vieques, how you use an island for target practice, and you test bombs with 10 different carcinogens, where you expose a population. Right now, the whole population of Vieques, everyone in Vieques, everyone has a family member with cancer or has died with cancer, and that's outrageous. That's it's very few places in the world have that, right? And so so how you deal with that and how it was dealt with the solidarity was great, but there was one mistake, and that mistake was done by the independence movement. We did not make Vieques a project for us to really liberate Vieques. Once we got the Navy out, we pulled out, and you can't do that. Vieques does not have a hospital. People has to travel, take a boat, and sometimes they don't have access to the ferries, because the tickets are there's scalpers who buy hundreds of tickets and then resell them, for the businesses. So, and the Airbnb companies that has also saturated Vieques and Culebras are buying these things, and they give it to the people renting their Airbnbs, the tickets. So the Viequenses are fighting to get on board a boat so they can get treatment on the mainland, because there's no hospital. Why couldn't we have built a hospital there? Why couldn't that have been the project of the independence movement, to send our doctors over there for rotating, and a weekend, go over there, spend 2 days working and 1 day fishing or relaxing, or vice versa, 1 day working and 2 days fishing, whatever, but donate some time to the people of Vieques who are in great need. The same thing with the agriculturalists, because there's a way that you can take carcinogens and contaminants out of the soil. There's certain grasses to grow. There's a book called Bioremediation that was done by Arturo Masol from Casa Pueblo. That's very good on that. We needed projects like that to occur, to decontaminate Vieques and to make Vieques an example of how we can govern Vieques, right? Creating projects. We did not do that. It's not too late. We can still do it, but we have to come together. We have to think boldly on these things. Right now, people are just trying to survive. Look, the basic income of Puerto Ricans is $12,000 a year. $12,000 a year. If you earn, like in my case, if I earn, I had what you guys know as Obamacare or aquí se llama la reforma, because I was unemployed and to get medical insurance I had to get that, right? The minute I got a job that earned $20,000 or $25,000 more, I'm eliminated from that. So you have people who are being enticed not to work, and they're offering jobs everywhere, but what are they paying you? $8 an hour, $9 an hour, and then they're taking that away when the light bill and the water bill goes up almost on a monthly basis. They're taking your paycheck away. You have to decide whether or not you're going to pay the paycheck or pay the light bill or pay your phone bill or buy medicine. And so that's the dilemma that's happening right now, and that's why. And I believe it's a plan to force us out of the island, because it's so obvious, you raise everything, you have small businesses closing, you make it so hard for someone to open up a little hot dog stand or anything. You make it so difficult for that to happen, and then everything keeps going up. Every time the gas price goes up, the light goes up, because it's tied to it. It's tied to combustion. And so they justify it all. And what happens is that the people selling the gasoline, they wait. They usually wait a week after the price has already gone down. They wait a week after or 2 weeks after to lower their prices. So we're affected in all these ways. So yeah, I think we need to identify groups around the world that are dealing with this. We need to open up spaces. Puerto Ricans need to learn about Kurdistan, the fight of the Kurds. Puerto Ricans need to know about Palestine. We have many Palestinians living here. We need to have more activities with them. We need to know about what's happening in South in West Sahara. We need to know about all these countries that are being colonized and occupied, and we need to start really doing some solidarity work here to expose that, because we know what it means and what it is like to be a colony, and how you're attacked from all angles. We're being bombarded from all angles, and that makes it real difficult to organize like big marches and everything, right? Because some groups might support, like even in Vieques, even stakeholders supported Vieques, right? So now when you're marching against a policy that like even the light electrical company, the governor steady defending the electrical company, and although the majority of people, probably 100% of the people are going to complain about the electrical company, but very few are going to march against it because the governor, that sector of the governor, they don't want to embarrass the governor, right? And so they will march. So you might see 100,000 people where we could have had 1 million, and you're seeing that everywhere. You're seeing even with the environmental thing, the marches against the developers and these marches, the developers are hiring armed guards, mercenaries that are shooting into the marchers. In Aguadilla, my hometown, just a few blocks away, the marchers were protesting the development over a cave over the ocean that's it's a cave that they're still doing explorations in there. This guy was developing a stable for thousands of horses. It was developing a tank to hold fuel for planes, and a 65-room hotel up on top. And they're drilling and causing damage to these I forgot what you call them. They're tunnels inside the ocean, where you go to the caves that turn into a maze of tunnels. And So they're causing enormous ecological damage to that. And the people were protesting outside of the fencing area, and some of them threw rocks that barely reached the security forces. This guy just took his gun out and opened fire because he thought he could get away with that and hit a guy in the leg. You know, everybody else started running it, but hit a guy in the leg. So then they refused to arrest him, and because of pressure, now they arrested him, and he's going to trial. But he will probably get away with that. So you having all these things that we need to network on, but it's becoming very difficult for people to go out and march, and the marches sometimes are too passive. You know, I believe in civil disobedience, but I believe in civil disobedience where you make it a little difficult on them. You know, you don't have to use violence, but you can, make it a little more costly and difficult for them. I think those who are capable of doing it are not doing it. And I include myself. That's self-criticism because I haven't done my share as well. But that's what's happening in Puerto Rico. You seen they just had one last Wednesday, a big march against the electrical company. But it was huge. But I think it should have been 5 times that much, and it could have been, if not for some of the divisions. The other question, any?
Angie?
So Luis, first, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions. Like when you say huge, how many people is huge?
I think this last one might have been 20,000.
And what happened to the group of towns that were going to sue the U.S. government for the damage to the Puerto Rican environment? Wasn't there like a group of towns that developed a lawsuit? Is there any progress on that?
For the an electrical or the communication towers?
Oh, I don't know.
Because there's several lawsuits that have been set. What's happening in Puerto Rico that you have, apart from having the La Junta, you have a judge. Her name is Taylor Swing. It's an African American judge, a black judge, who is responsible. She has basically carte blanche. She tells the junta what to do. The junta is a colonial, right? It's amazing because now we've been colonized like 3 times, right? We've been colonized 3 times. We're colonized by the federal government. The federal government appoints this junta of 9 or 11 people to decide how we spend our money. That the first people who gets paid by law, by the Constitution of Puerto Rico, the first people who get paid are the persons who bought the debt, the voucher funds, and the people who bought the debt, right? So what happens is that hospitals are being underfunded. There's money being taken away from that. Money being taken away from they've even proposed to close all the universities down except for maybe 2 or 3 public universities. Because that money has to go into paying the debt. And they've established an amount of what it is. But what happens that anytime something happens where we have an ecological disaster like a hurricane or the earthquakes that we've been feeling, or even a pandemic, we have money that will go to that being diverted to pay the debtors. And as a result, many have died because of this. And you have police forces. There's some towns with only 1 policeman in the whole town. You have fires that are being turned off. Right now, we've had a lot of forest fires because of the heat that go unattended because there's no police, no fireman force, right? There's only volunteers. So you're having all this. You're having hospitals. Imagine a hospital being shut down because the electricity goes off, and because both of the generators that they had that were supposed to be modulated and what do you call that? and made sure that it worked. They were under Luma's control, never turned on. So now you got a hospital that spends the whole day moving people out, and because there's no electricity. I mean, these are the type of things that we're facing on a daily basis. The good thing that there's people still willing to struggle and commit to the struggle. And I think, you know, colonialism is the clothes is being taken off, so you see it for what it is. It's naked and it's barbarous, and we have to take advantage of the situation. We have to take advantage of the fact that now they can't deny that Puerto Rico is a colony. They can't deny the abuses that occur. They can't deny the corruption. They can't deny the fact that we're being broken up into little pieces and sold and made to leave. All this is now everyone's seeing this. There are some people who are still in denial. They think things can get better and be fixed. Let's just vote someone else in or something. But this system is rotten to the core, and we have to totally eliminate it and build something new. And I think that it's time for the independence movement to take independence out of the abstraction and create because that's the problem, that a lot of people fear independence because they don't know exactly how it is. So we have to take it out of the abstraction, formulate it in a way that's understood, and not only formulate it, but we need to start our own projects already. Like right now, there's a lot of young people who are involved in agriculture. They're taking over lands that's not being used and using it. We need to build cooperatives like that. We need to support those people. We need to identify who they are. There's women groups that are taking control of a lot of the policy making within the independence movement, and challenging the not only homophobia but challenging the machismo within our movement. We need to support them, and we need to, you know, to help them win this battle, because it's our battle as well. And I think, you know, I've always said that the liberation is in the process. Liberation occurs within the process, within your struggles, right? It doesn't occur at the end where you march with a flag and having taken over government. It occurs within the process, and we have to start liberating ourselves of some of these things that help that have created change, and then so when we get to that point where we're governing, we're better equipped to do that, and a little more liberated, right? And less colonized, because colonized mentality has infected all of us. We have suffered over 500 years of colonization. There's no way in the world that there's one person in Puerto Rico that has not been infected and affected by colonization. And so we have to, on a daily basis, liberate ourselves from these tendencies.
Thank you. You had another follow-up or no?
Luis, what's the name of the company that's doing the underwater drilling in Aguadilla? What's the name?
They're called Cliff.
Called what?
Cliff. They're called something Cliff. Ocean Cliff. They're not doing the underwater. They're above ground over the cave. You know, the ceiling that protects the caves. They're drilling on top of that.
Okay.
It's called Ocean Cliff, I think.
Ocean Cliff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see.
The other thing is, like, it's again, I want to say what Salva was saying about, like, the thanks for giving us the information. We know we haven't been, you know, consistently getting the information from Puerto Rico that we need to do our work, and so it's wonderful to be in touch with you.
Now,
and I know Bobby.
okay, so
No,
actually,
thank you.
We have a question from Elspeth and Bobby. So let's hear both of them. Let's hear from Elspeth first, and then Bobby, and then you can answer them both together. So Elspeth, go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly.
Okay, great. After you threw out the governor a few years ago, there were collective formed throughout the country, throughout Puerto Rico. And I wanted to ask about that. I also wanted to ask a little bit more about the agricultural collectives, both those.
Great. Yeah.
And before you answer, let's hear
Yeah.
Bobby's question as well, and then you can answer them
Okay.
together, please.
Yeah.
Hi, Luis.
How you doing, man?
So much for the presentation, very informative.
Thank you.
So two very big questions that you can only scratch the surface of. One is, how would you assess the status of working class organizing, both in the workplace, strikes and job actions, but also more generally, the role of the working class in society? And the second one is, you mentioned the provisional government. What's the status of that as far as a tie into a united front of all the independence or even pro-autonomy forces, or however you define that, to work on the global stage for the goal of independence?
Okay. Let me start with Al Smith's question. In 2017, we got rid of a governor without firing a shot, and by having a consistent movement. This was something that was not organized by any particular organization. What happened was that the governor fired this one person who had access to a private chat of the governor and some of his lackeys. In that chat, the governor and the lackeys were ridiculing in the most ugliest of terms different people. It was very homophobic, very it was everything. They attacked everybody. They attacked people overweight. They attacked everybody, but in a real horrendous fashion, right? And even one was caught saying that Puerto Rico will be a lot better without Puerto Ricans. Imagine this. This is people within the government, the friends of the governor. So the person who had access to the chat threatened the governor with exposing this. The governor hired this guy to mediate and offer money. They offered $300,000, but the guy who was supposed to deliver the money didn't deliver it, and the guy exposed the chat, and there was over 65 pages of chats that this guy had. It's public information. You can look at it. You can find it in the internet. Anyway, so the people started protesting, and they started coming out there with pots and pans and making noise. At a certain time, at 8 o'clock at night, everybody would come out of the houses and make noise, right? And then they started marching, doing the same thing. And then the people like Ricky Martin and Residente and all the top artists of Puerto Rico started saying, we need to be part of this. So they came down. And when they announced that they're part of this, all hell broke loose, and everybody was out of the streets. So we had one of the biggest marches, over 1,200,000 people marched and forced the governor. The only time in the history where the governor was forced to resign, he was in his second year term. And this is the son of one of the most popular and most recognized governor in Puerto Rico, Pedro Rosselló, which had these mega projects. He was corrupt too, but he was the one that coined, yes, there's corruption, but there's enough money for everyone to steal, basically. And so because he was doing these mega projects, and people were stealing money left and right. And matter of fact, under his term, that was the biggest corruption case of the Department of Education, where a person went to prison stealing $78 million or something like that. So, yeah, so there was a lot of that helped a lot of people branch off into different groups, right? And so you had a lot of women's groups were created that were real powerful. Even one cultural women's group that appears in almost all demonstrations with their where the bomba play music and dancing, and so there was an empowerment movement on different scales, which was really good. Those are still around, but again, here we are. We also corrupt PNP government, and who gets elected the next year? Well, first of all, when he resigned, the person who took his spot was another PNP who is now facing criminal charges and about to go to jail, because she was making negotiations with this right-wing banker from South America. I don't know if he was one of the Venezuelan bankers who left Venezuela, but she was accepting money for her campaign and to change the laws to allow him to a foreign government to open a bank, and so she's now facing whatchamacallit. And then, but after her, the governor who's now present is a PNP who's probably 10 times worse than the kid we threw out, and as corrupt, but he gets elected in. And so you see a pattern that we're good in stopping something, but we don't maintain that momentum. And sometimes that throws us back 10 years, we did the Vieques, we did Culebra, and we didn't do nothing with Culebra. Now the speculators are coming in, the island of Culebra, which was Vieques before, and it's been almost completely gentrified now. It belongs more to foreign investors than us. You had the island of Vieques. We did the same thing, threw them out, and we stopped bombings in both areas. Culebra was used for 42 years before Vieques. So we have this pattern of doing something and not maintaining the momentum, and not doing the necessary follow-up work to turn it into a project. So yeah, these groups, these resistance groups exist. They're the ones who are now the most vocal in the marches, which is good. The women's group has maintained, they've basically saved the dignity of the movement within the last 4 years, because that's who's giving it the leadership. And so, yeah, that's happening. Now, as far as the state of the working class, you've seen when the largest union in Puerto Rico, one of the most militant union that was always controlled by independentistas, because something even the stakeholders recognize is that the independentistas are going to make things happen. If you want better wages and better conditions, the independentistas are going to be at the forefront of any union, right? Because even the stakeholders recognize that we're not going to be out there doing this, but the independentistas are. So we'll just ride along and benefit from it. So you have one of the biggest unions, which was the electrical union, the UTL, one of the oldest, and again, one of the most militant unions. When they came out to march, believe me, that was a force to be reckoned with. When they came out to a march, what happened? Lumas comes in, and one of the main proposals, because Lumas was a U.S. creation, they didn't exist. Lumas was a U.S. company combined with a Canadian company to come into Puerto Rico to take over the $1.2 billion that was there to help regenerate the electricity. They basically stole everything. The first job they did was to not recognize the union. They told the union members, you either join us or you're out without a job. The government, to soften things up, because they knew the militancy of this group, said, okay, if you want to maintain your pension, you can come and work for the government. So some of them are doing clerical work. The persons more qualified to tie a power line are now doing clerical work or things that are insignificant in a government, just because you don't want to give them a work, or you don't want to recognize their union. So they basically eliminated, destroyed that union. they're destroying the teachers union. They created a union that will go against the Federación, the federation, the teachers federation, which was a very militant and pro independent union. You created another union that would negotiate with the government. So the government said, okay, we got a union to negotiate with. We don't need you. So anybody who wants to benefit from union as union laborers, join this union. And, you know, it disrupts the other union, right? So you have the UTL, the power, the electrical company, then you got the teachers union being disseminated. You have laws that are being created now where you don't have to you don't have to allow union labor. Walmart does not. You got a lot of Walmart here. You got a lot of and Walmart's trying to buy everything. Walgreens. You got a lot of people that don't have union labor and refuse to whatchamacallit. They'll create part-time jobs and not full-time jobs, so they don't have to pay medical expenses or stuff like that. So so the state of the workers movement here is and then you have the other thing that a lot of workers unions are tied to U.S. unions, and some of those unions are not are not looking favorably to a lot of Puerto Ricans, because as I say, why should we give union dues to a company that's outside the country? They don't see it like that. And then there's been a real big, the whole thing is to control the narrative here, and all the newspapers and everything, they'll focus like on the unions. They'll focus on, oh, you got 6 guys there and 1 guy working and 6 guys supervising, and so you start discrediting the unions, and every time the unions go for greater pay, you say, oh, you guys are overpaid already, and so you're having that type of narrative done throughout the media. Even the police union, that people have marched in favor of the police union, to then have that same police attack us when we march. There's no loyalty in that. You have the same police union that we were out there in the streets in solidarity with them, demanding greater, better equipment and better pay. Now they're, a week later, when they get theirs, a week later they're attacking us in the marches. And you have in control of the police, you have some of the most right-wing people ever. I mean, they federalize the police force here, and so it's like most of the other police forces. You enter the police forces, you could be the most humane of persons, but sooner or later you have to turn away from a beating that they're giving somebody helpless, because or else they're going to come on you. It's the whole reciprocal thing. You turn in the corrupt, and the corrupt are now got you in their sights. So that's with the workers thing. As far as the provisional government, there's an attempt now by the indigenous people of Puerto Rico to create a provisional government. They made that thing, but they've done it in a way that excludes others, and so the independence movement is really not recognizing them as a provisional government. I think there's a project that I mentioned to Matt that's still in the works, and I got some people interested in it, where we start identifying potential leadership of this movement. And by identifying, I mean we would pass out these leaflets in these major festivals like Claridad and other festivals that where independentists, like the Grito Lares and Hayuya and stuff, where independentists would go, and we would ask them. It's like a survey. It's like a survey type of thing, a questionnaire. What form of government do you want? You want parliamentarian? What form of government do you want? Once they identify that, then we say, give us 3 options for the leadership of the government, 3 options for the leadership of the educational department, for the economy, for environmental stuff like that, all the important tourism and whatever, all the important departments. And we would take this survey, now that we got people thinking about leadership, right? We would take these, and that's the purpose of it, to do a psychological shaking up of people, where people now are contemplating self-governing, right? They're contemplating government, other than receiving orders from someone. So now you're giving an option. Give us three names for leadership of this is that. We take that, we do our own research of that, and we take the top 3 names that scored in that, and now we have a palette. We have a platform, and what would be a provisional government. So now people can elect within. We take the top 3 numbers, and now we have a ballot where people can select from this ballot, and the names that are selected, we would consider as a provisional government. It would be democratically elected, but there's a few other things that need to occur before that, because we still need to take independence out of the abstract, right? So one of the other things that we suggested was creating these forums on an economy, forums on ecology, forums on education, forums on health, on industrialization. We would take these forums and invite scholars to come to these forums, Puerto Rican scholars, each of these forums separate, right? Education, just educational scholars, and they will present their papers, maybe 15, 20 pages of what the economy of Puerto Rico will be like in an independent Puerto Rico, and but detailed, don't tell me, it'll be a tourism and industrial, economy, and mixed with this and a small business. No, give me how much tourism, how much land are you going to use, how much is going to be based on, what expected growth rate in tourism would be, detailed. And then we will grab these papers, because there will be a lot of commonality within these papers. You got 10 scholars, I bet you all 10 will find common ground on a bunch of things, right? So you will grab that, and you give it to a group of people that will analyze it and write up a platform on what the economy of the independence will look like. You do this with education. You do this with ecology. You do this with everything, every type of department you can think of, and you present this as now the platform of what independence will look like, and how we will move in, quickly to assume these responsibilities once an independent country. And so if we can start doing this, I think we would take independence out of the abstract. It was briefly done by the independence movement. They had a green book that they passed out, I think year 2000, 2002 or 4 or something like that. The PIP passed out these booklets, and it talked about like what will happen to Social Security. We talked about oh wow, let me plug in, because hold on a minute, let me get my jogging cord. Oh, let me see. Holy cow. I'm back. Forgot all about it. Okay, so
Your computer's cord, but your cords are also plugged in as well, man?
what was that?
No, I just want to make sure yours as well as your computer cords are all, on
Yeah.
class.
You've been going
Okay.
nonstop.
I
It's
know, right?
amazing.
Yeah, so the purpose of this is to take it out of the abstract, right? And to do a psychological checkup, because there was a time where a person from the pit would only pick pit members to be in the government, right? So what happens now is that I truly believe that you would explore other people other than the people in your organization, and that breaks up sectarianism, right? That helps break sectarianism, because if you were to ask me who you want governing the country, I I might go with Ruben Berrios, which is the leader of the PIP, one of the big leaders of the PIP. And but then I have to think, wow, there's this person, and I might pick people who are even in the popular Democratic Party, because I see them as statesperson, that are capable of representing us internationally. So I mean,
the Oscar campaign modeled that, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
Oscar campaign in the last days modeled that because we knew, and in some much smaller ways, Nieves Falcone in the last
Exactly.
days of his life modeled that in terms of there were a couple, not many, but a couple. For example, Oscar is from San Sebastián,
Right.
as mayor of that province,
Right.
state, was
Exactly.
very pro-Oscar and not
Exactly.
independentista, et cetera, et cetera. So we've modeled.
Exactly. So yes, there is a history. There is a history of that, and Luis Nieves was very instrumental in doing that. I mean, Luis Nieves, perhaps was the most instrumental in developing this type of mentality, right? That you sometimes have to look. I often believe that the most effective thing in Oscar's campaign was not that the independentistas were there, because we have to be there. That's our responsibility. Not that the people of Solidarity are there, because you're in Solidarity, you have to be there. It's the people who were not convinced, who aren't there. Those are the ones we need to get, right? And if you got them on the wagon, then it's there. You disarm their argument. You help disarm their argument. So by doing this, by taking the ambiguity out of what independence is, then I think you're going to get a lot of that sector coming in and agreeing with it, right? But that's a real tenuous job to put this all together. I got the ideas in the head, but I don't know nothing about how you put it together. And I've been trying to share it with other people to see if they would take it on, and hopefully I think, within this year, I got one person who told me, hey, look, send me everything you got. I'll try to put it together and see what we can do. But that's one of the things that I think needs to happen. We need to take it out of the abstract. We have a lot from Luis Nieves, from the PIP that we can use. A lot of the platforms from different organizations that we can use on how to do this. But we have to get people to think outside the box. We have a culture in Puerto Rico where it's become embedded on who you're going to vote for. Oh, my father was this, my grandfather was this, blah 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 blah. So it comes, it's generational, right? It gets passed down. There's very little analytics, analytical thinking in voting. Sometimes you vote for the person who looks good or something like that, and it's become, it's almost like very cynical way of saying, I don't care anymore. I'm not, these have never gotten better for me. So I don't care who's there, and we have to change that. We have to get people back into confidence and we have to do that work. I think the independence movement needs to do that work. And so some of these proposals are around that. I don't know if I answered everything. Oh, so the whole thing with the provisional government is just that. Is introducing into the mind frame of people who have been colonized the potential to govern. You have the potential to govern. We have the leadership to govern. And don't be afraid of this, because this is what it's going to look like. We have a picture. We have a general picture. Sure, some things will change, but we have a general picture of how we can make this happen, and lessen the suffering, because that's the whole thing, Oh, Puerto Rico, we're going to starve to death. We're going to do this. But if you already have cooperative farming, and that's why I said the importance of projects. If you already have cooperative farming, if you already have radio stations that we have occupied space, and newspapers where we can occupy space so we can control the narrative a little better. If we have already people who have been trained in this, willing to come back, the union, the electrical union I know will come back once Loomis is gone. You know, if we have these people who are skilled in this, willing to come back and add to the country, you know, I see as a prosperous nation. We have nothing to envy any other nation. We have, you know, we have scholars here. We have very knowledgeable electronically, and we have great capabilities here. So I don't envy, and I don't I'm not scared at all about the possibility of governing independence.
Viva Puerto
Thank you.
Rico.
Que viva, que viva.
Brother, I
you.
think we're gonna let you, you know, catch your breath or whatever you
Thank
need
you.
to do. But compa, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Oh,
Take
it's
care. My love to all.
incredible.
We will be in touch soon because,
Absolutely.
you know, apparently we have a lot of work to do, huh?
Yes, we do.
All
Yeah.
right. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stay strong.